Yes,
Hi, Miss. Good morning.
good morning, dear. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, we started with section 5 in chapter 8, which is translation. And who can tell me what is translation, please? What is translation?
Miss, I know.
Yalla, Abdul what is translation?
Miss, translation is the process that converts or translates an mRNA message into a polypeptide.
Polypeptide chain, which is a protein, right? Polypeptide
Yes,
chain will become a protein is made even from one polypeptide chain or more. يعني في عندي proteins يكون one polypeptide or more polypeptide chains. فتranslation excellent عبد الرحمن or converting هو converting the mRNA message into polypeptide or protein. And as we said, all our chapter is talking about how the protein is made, starting from DNA to protein. Okay? هلا احنا we learned before about replication and transcription, how these processes are following each other in the central dogma اللي هو from DNA to mRNA and to protein outside the nucleus. Now, where do you think translation happens? Inside the nucleus or outside the cytoplasm? Where do you think the translation happens, guys? Yes, Jane.
I think it happens in the cytoplasm.
Bravo. Replication or transcription happens inside the nucleus. Then, when the mRNA is ready getting the message from the DNA, this mRNA messenger will go out to the cytoplasm where there are the sites of protein factories اللي هم ribosomes. عشان to make the protein, this messenger RNA will go outside in the cytoplasm and translation will happen there. Okay? As we said, in our language, we have letters to write words, right? But in a genetic language, to translate this message, there are also letters, but these letters are not like our letters in our language. They are nucleotides. احنا we have four types of nucleotides in the RNA اللي هم adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. Okay? هلا هدول النيوكليوتيدز هم they are as the letters in our language. Now in our language the letters make words, but in the genetic language these nucleotides make codons. هلا الword made of maybe 2, 3, 4, 10 letters, but codons in the genetic language, each codon is made of 3 nucleotides, and each nucleotide, each codon will code for a certain amino acid. احنا we said that translation is needed to translate the message from the messenger RNA to know which amino acids are needed to be joined together to make the protein. يعني أنا عندي مثلا my stomach need the enzyme pepsin, okay, for digestion. فهذا الانزيم is needed now. هلا I'm eating, I need this enzyme. cells will DNA and the cells will give instruction for the cell to make this protein. فالtranscription will start. بيطلع mRNA مع المسج. mRNA will go outside to the cytoplasm and have the codons. هدول الcodons they will be translated to make the protein. كل codon will code for an amino acid. مش احنا قلنا proteins are made of amino acids? So each codon will code for a certain amino acids, and these amino acids will be joined together by the ribosome to make the protein needed by the cell. Till here, is everything clear, guys? Any question till here, guys? Muhammad Ghaddam, is it clear?
Oh yes, miss.
تمام. هلا إذا شو يعني codon? Codon هو sequence of 3 nucleotides. دائما remember and keep in your mind codon like such as a word. بالlanguage بنقول عنها word. بالgenetic language we say codon. Our language we say letters that make the word. بالكودون. what make the codon اللي هم sequence of nucleotide. sequence كيف مرتبين النيوكليوتيد، مرة AUG، مرة GUA، مرة CCU، مرة CAU، مرة okay. Each codon will code for an amino acid. Alright. So codon هو sequence of 3 nucleotides that code for an amino acid. Right. Now we will go to the next section in this lesson. But I want to go to the page first. هلا هون this table showing you the genetic code matches each mRNA codon with its amino acid. يعني كل codon على mRNA it is matched with its amino acid which codes for certain amino acid. في عندي أنا sometimes some amino acid has more than one codon زي الفينال ألانين. هذا الأمينو acid you may find it as UUU or UUC. Both of these codons will code for phenylalanine. يعني إذا الريبوسوم finds this UUU or UUC uracil 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 or uracil uracil cytosine يعني هذا معناته coding تخلي transfer RNA بدنا phenylalanine bring phenylalanine for us from the cytoplasm. Okay. So as you see here في عندي some of the amino acids have one or more than one codon. زي عندي cysteine has 2 codons and tryptophan has 1 codon but UGG only codes for tryptophan, this type of amino acid. احنا عندنا تقريبا 20 amino acids, 20 types of amino acids. هدول الامينو acids they join together to make several types of proteins. طيب هلا if you observe here look at this part على الارجينين. Can you see the arginine here? I will mark it for you. Can you see it all? All right. طيب. Here is arginine. شوفوا الارجينين how many codons code for the arginine amino acid? 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these codons code for arginine amino acid. يعني ال mRNA إذا كان عندها أي واحدة من هدول they will all be coded for arginine اللي هو amino acid. But what you observe here, look at the first 2 nucleotides in the 4 codons. طلعوا على ال 2 nucleotides. هون عندي CG. وهون عندي CG. وهون عندي CG. All of them start with CG. Okay? ف the fork هون لحظة شوي. Want to make it stop. All right. Now, here, as you can see, many amino acids are coded for by more than one codon. زي الارجينين coded for by more than one codon. هيهم. Okay, is represented by 6 different codons. هذا عندي 5 different codons which are CGU, CGC, CGA, CGG. تمام? Well, if you look here also at the leucine, where is leucine? Leucine also has 6 هنا. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. هنا 4 عندي for leucine. Okay? هيو كمان 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 codons code for leucine. Okay? If you look at these codons, you will observe that there is a pattern to codons. In most cases, the codons that represent the amino acid share the same first 2 nucleotides. طلعوا على الليوسين هون CU 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 وهذا كمان leucine another type UU UU. Also the arginine starts with CG CG. So the codon that codes for the same amino acid start with the first 2 nucleotides are the same. نفس الشيء عندي هنا asparagine have AAU AAC. Okay? Do you understand, guys, what I said? Any question?
Yes.
تمام. هلا هون there is something you have to know إنه لما يصير عندي أنا a translation لازم يكون there is a stop codon و start codon. The stop codon signal the end of the amino acid. والstart codon signals the start of the translation. يعني لما يجي أنا عندي الريبوزوم to make the protein يعمل translation للبروتين تيجي ال mRNA and this ribosome want to translate the protein to make the protein لازم يكون في عندي start codon ويكون في عندي 3 end stop codons تمام to be regulated for this ribosome to know كده الريبوزوم بيعرف what protein he needs لازم يكون في عندي where to start and where to stop starting codon و stopping codon. This means إنه translation always begins with methionine يعني لازم أنا ال starting codon عندي يبلش بأمينو أسيد اللي هو methionine. أوكي هي الميثيونين لحظة I will show it to you. Where is the methionine؟ هياته AUG. ال AUG هو ال starting codon. When the ribosome finds the AUG methionine will start the translation. If it doesn't find the methionine, the translation will not start. Okay? تمام؟ Okay.
تمام.
والstopping codon هو UGA. UGA which is هذا ما لهش امينو اسيد هو stopping codon. When it finds UGA codon, the translation will stop. فلازم يكون في عندي stopping codon and starting codon. تمام. Alright. هلا for RNA code to be translated correctly, codons must be read in the right order. اوكي يعني انا بدي البروتين to be made يكون عباره عن which amino acid arginine, tyrosine, serine, اوكي فلازم يكون النيوكليوتايد هذول ordered in a right order. لازم يكون شيء بنسميه بيكون الكودونز are read without spaces يعني ملازقين في بعض هيك بنقرأوا CGAU AC AGU AGC ما في عندي spaces like the word. They are all connected together without spaces. Okay? And these series يعني they are in an order called reading frame. هلا هذا reading frame for a certain protein ببلش CGA in this order. If this reading frame it changed, okay, this the reading frame completely changed the resulting protein. بيأثر على البروتين that will result. عشان هيك ال order of the nucleotide should be in the right order. Any change in the order اللي هو ال reading frame will change the protein that will be synthesized. حيغير في البروتين. وهون يا مس أنا بدي أتطرق لإشي هون بصير عندي mutation اللي هو طفرات in making some proteins in our bodies. I will talk about this later in section 7. إذا صار عندي أي change أو أي mistake في ال translation or transcription or replication, this will affect the mutation. And that means إنه صار عندي مشكلة في order of the nucleotide. Okay? So now is it clear, guys? Any
Yes.
questions here? Okay. Come on. Now, so we said that. Who is this? Okay. So if you look here, the process of translation معناها إنه message that the messenger RNA has will be translated to amino acid وهدول الامينو acid will be linked together to become a protein. احنا قلنا the ribosomes are the organelles that responsible to make the proteins and the protein factories. In addition in the help of ribosomal RNA. Then ribosomal RNA is part of the ribosome. تمام؟ Ribosomal RNA is part of the ribosome. I will go to our PowerPoint slide. Can you see the PowerPoint slide here? Ahmed?
بس لا.
لا.
No.
خليني أعمل share here. So. Okay. All right. We said here, go through this. شايفين هذا الأوردر؟ هذا ال reading frame. Reading frame 2. Change in the order in which codons are read change the resulting protein. وقلنا في شغلة مهمة regardless of the organism شو ما كان الأورجانيزم من simplest organism like bacteria to human الكودونز code for the same amino acid. يعني في البكتيريا ال UAC code for tyrosine and in a human also it codes for tyrosine. فالكودونز code for the same amino acid in all organisms. أنا عندي 20 amino acids which make the proteins in our body. هلا إذا الأمينو acids are linked to become a protein. في عندي أنا for this process to happen 3 important parts should work together to make this process اللي هي translation. أول شيء طبعا الريبوزوم. This is the ribosome. الريبوزوم هذا is existing when in the cytoplasm, the cell cytoplasm. هذا الريبوزوم الريبوزوم RNA هو part من الريبوزوم. اوكي؟ في عنده 2 sub units، واحدة large sub unit وواحدة small sub unit. هلا ال small sub unit of the ribosome will bind to the mRNA. رح تمسك فيها المسنجر RNA هون in this part. وال large sub unit binds to the transfer RNA. شوفوا ال transfer RNA how does it look like. The transfer RNA بيكون هو RNA molecule sorry type of the RNA molecule. yeah. هذا ال pre-RNA عنده هون anticodon. هذا الانتيكودون which will يعني عنده complementary codon for the codon of the mRNA. هذا حيمسك بالكودون تبع ال mRNA and will translate رح يعرف what this codon codes for which amino acid and will bring the amino acid من السيتوبلازم وين على الريبوسوم عشان الريبوسوم to connect these amino acids and to make a polypeptide chain as a protein. إذا an anticodon is a set of 3 nucleotides that is complementary to an mRNA codon. مين بيجيبهم هدول الانتيكودون؟ الانتيكودون is carried by the transfer RNA. هلا هذا الترانسفير RNA بيكون في السيتوبلازم. It is attracted by the codons on the messenger RNA. It will attract it attract it with the correct anticodon. الانتيكودون الممسكون يعني لو انا كان عندي كودون على الام ار ان اي CCG شو حيكون الانتيكودون هون GGC. Do you understand this point? What is the anticodon? محمد غنام.
Yes.
اوكي تمام. So هيدا اول بارت قلنا الريبوزوم، ثاني بارت الترانسفير RNA والثيرد بارت هو المسنجر RNA. لازم يكونوا هدول موجودين for translation to happen. هلا على السمول سب يونت المسنجر RNA will bind هون. شايفين الكودون تاعون المسنجر RNA هيهم. اوكي هذه will bind to the small subunit of the ribosome وعلى اللارج subunit it will bind مين tRNA. هلا الريبوزوم will bind here بيجي على الستارتنج كودون اللي هو الميثيونين بيمسك في الام ار ان اي ببلش الترانسليشن. هدول الكودونز بالام ار ان اي will attract التي ار ان اي من السيتوبلازم حامل انتي كودون and carrying the amino acid which code for this codon. And each one of these tRNA come and binds to its codon and the ribosome will take this amino acid from the transfer RNA. The transfer RNA will leave the cytoplasm again and ribosome will join the amino acid يعني one go one left by the tRNA. بيجي واحد وبيروح واحد. Each one comes carrying or transferring an amino acid. الريبوسوم will bind these amino acids to form an polypeptide chain. شايفين هاي هون the polypeptide chain هيك it will end at this result. تكون like this result it ends. هذا protein and this protein when translation finished it will be decharged and stopped وراح يطلع هذا البروتين and تعمل folding for different structures and used by the cell. Okay, do you understand? Yes, miss.
هسا الامينو acids اللي بتيجي they and they make it into like proteins, right?
Yeah.
بالاخير اوكي خلاص بس كنت اعرف هاي.
Yeah. هلا شوفوا let's see the steps here. هلا الريبوسوم helps for the polypeptide bond between amino acids. الريبوسوم شو وظيفته معناته؟ إنه bonding بيعمل bond between amino acids. يعني بيعمل polypeptide bond بياخذ الامينو acids that are transferred by the tRNA بالريبوسوم they will be bound together. شايفين؟ بصير عندي هذا الامينو acid will break from the tRNA and bond by the other amino acid to form the protein. إذا الريبوسوم function helps form polypeptide bonds between the amino acids يعني bonding the amino acids together. اوكي وبتكون طبعا عندي انا الام ار ان اي هون in the small subunit strand. اوكي الريبوسوم will pull this mRNA strand the length of one codon يعني بتكون تقول يعني كيف الآلة الطابعة لما تطبع تمشي for a certain distance تمشي مثلا لحرف كل حرف تمشي هذه for each codon بتكون انا عندي كانها عم تنسحب holding up by the ribosome. كل سحبة بكودون، كل سحبة بكودون وبيقرأ هذا الكودون. اوكي فهمتوا؟ Do you understand الفكرة؟ Do you understand the idea؟ تمام. Okay, so the exposed codon in the first site attracts a complementary tRNA. شايفين؟ هذا الكودون will attract ايش؟ ال tRNA طبعا بيكون عارف شو هو الامينو اسيد which code for this anticodon. The tRNA anticodon pairs with the mRNA codon بمسك هذا الانتيكودون تاع tRNA مع الكودون تاع mRNA bringing it very close to the other tRNA molecule. هنا الريبوسوم forms a peptide bond. بيعمل الريبوسوم شو وظيفته هلا؟ هدول الامينو اسيد that carried by the tRNA will form peptide bonds between the two amino acids and break the bond between the first tRNA والamino acid عشان يخلي tRNA free. Now the empty tRNA molecule exists in the ribosome. It will exist here. Complementary tRNA molecule binds to the next exposed codon. بيجي واحد ثاني binds to the next codon. Once the stop codon is reached, the ribosome releases the protein. خلص اجى على النهاية اللي هو UAG, the stop codon. Now the ribosome will release the protein freely to the cell to be used by the cell. Okay, فهمتوا? Do you understand how the translation happens?
Yes.
هلا I want to answer this question. Summarize. Explain the different roles of large and small ribosomal subunits. ايش الرول of the small subunit the ribosome and large subunit of the ribosome? What are the functions? يلا who can tell me? The small ايش الفانكشن تبع السمول او الرول for the small subunit؟ كيف مراد؟
small it binds to the mRNA.
بالضبط binds to the mRNA. واللارج يا مراد؟
اللارج اللي هو شو اسمه it helps in forming the polypeptide bonds between the amino acids.
برافو عليك. Thank you. تمام. So the small subunit holds on the mRNA transfer. The large subunit has 3 sites where the tRNA molecule can dock. يعني بيجي أنا عندي 3 sites عشان هذا tRNA to stand in. It helps form a peptide bond between the amino acid and helps break the bond between the amino acid and its carrier tRNA. هذول هم ال 3 dots اللي قصدي عنهم أنا. 3 dots عشان إنه هو places for the tRNA to dock or to stand or to stay. Okay? Right. Now let's answer the questions here. Explain the connection between a codon and amino acid. شو the connection between codon and amino acid? Yeah. What is the connection between codon and amino acid? Yeah. Iyad, can you please answer us, Iyad? Okay, Sadil.
The 3 nucleotides is one codon, and this codon is like it transfers amino acids.
Bravo. مش it changes, it codes for an amino acid.
Yeah.
Bravo. In each codon codes for an amino acid. طب anyone would like to add anything here? Murad, you would like, or Abdullah would like to add anything?
Teacher, I would like to add.
Yes, Abdullah, please.
Teacher, I was gonna say the codon corresponds with like a specific amino acid, or
Yes.
like stops signals
Yes,
during
يعني الكودون مظبوط.
proton.
هلا هو بده
Yes.
بالضبط ال connection between codon and amino acid. احنا there are some codons used for stopping and starting the translation, but they ask here specifically about the connection between the codon and the amino acid. Yeah, so عشان هيك الكودون it codes for an amino acid. The codon, which is made of 3 nucleotides, codes for an amino acid. تمام? All right, we will see the model answer here. A codon is a sequence of 3 nucleotides that specifies a particular amino acid, or you can say that code for a particular amino acid. Okay? تمام. هلا let's see question number 2. Briefly describe how the process of translation started. Yeah, how does it start, the process of translation? Who can tell me? Who can tell me how the process of translation started? Yes, yeah, Murad.
Okay. It starts with the messenger RNA, which binds to the small ribosome unit. The translation starts with the codon, which codes for the amino acid AUG, which signals the tRNA start. Yeah. The tRNA contains complementary anticodons, which will bind to the codons in the messenger RNA, and it will form amino acids, which will then be binded by the larger subunit of the ribosome.
Bravo, Alex. Thank you very much for that. But here's something I would like to add to your answer. إنه ribosomal subunit binds to the mRNA. Yes, Miss.
Yes, teacher, I was gonna say that.
You want to say this?
Yes.
Say it, Abdullah. Say it.
Teacher, I was gonna say, just as Murad said, that the messenger begins on RNA, which is mRNA, and then it's decoded in the ribosomes.
مظبوط. But there is something when it started, you have to say إنه small ribosomal subunits binds to the messenger RNA strand at the start codon. يعني إذا ما في عندي start codon اللي هو الميثيونين, the translation will not start, ribosome will not make protein. فهاي هي starting إنه the small ribosomal subunit binds to the messenger RNA strand at the start codon, which binds the first tRNA molecule. Now, هذا الcomplex signals the large ribosomal subunit to bind, forming a functional ribosome, which can then continue accepting tRNA molecules. يعني لازم يبلش عندي أنا إنه small subunit binds to the mRNA strand at the starting codon. هذا starting codon binds the first tRNA molecule. بيجي عنده first tRNA molecule which have the anticodon for the starting codon. Okay, and this complex signals the large ribosome subunits to start its job اللي هو binding الامينو acid.
Teacher, can I answer number 3?
يلا بس do you understand مراد what you missed؟
Yes miss.
بس هاي النقطة
إنه
جوابك صح، بس how it started لازم تحكي انه على الستارت كودون لانه هو اللي بيخلي الترانسفير tRNA هذا the first transfer tRNA molecule to bind وهذا هو اللي بيشغل اللارج ribosomal unit. تمام. Yes عبد الله. Suppose a transfer RNA molecule had the anticodon AGU. What amino acid would it carry? AGU.
Teacher, the TRA, because the TRA molecule, because it would like know the MRA, the mRN, the mRNA would condone UCA. So it would have amino acid, right?
يعني انت تخيل انت عندك tRNA molecule have the anticodon الانتيكودون تبعه AGU صح؟
Yes.
What is the amino acid؟ ايش عكس ال AGU؟ UCA.
Yes.
بس اللي هي السيرين صح؟
اللي هي السيرين بالضبط. يعني احنا اذا كان عندي انتيكودون على سوري؟
Yes, amino acid.
بالضبط. يعني انت بتطلع على tRNA الانتيكودون تبعه مش هو هذا الامينو اسيد، لا عكسه اللي هو على الام ار ان اي هو الامينو اسيد that the ribosome will use it to connect it to other amino acids. Okay, so the tRNA molecule would recognize the mRNA codon لانه هو ال tRNA هو ايش قلنا AGU. هذا ال AGU recognize راح يعرف يتعرف على مين complementary لمين ال AGU لا CGA. ولو طلعنا على الجدول TGA UCA هو carry the amino acid series. Is this clear guys? Any question till here? No question. كله فاهم؟ طب I will ask you a question. يلا. The question is, suppose tRNA molecule have the anticodon. أعطيكم الانتيكودون. You have your box with you. الانتيكودون اللي هو AAA. ال tRNA عنده انتيكودون اللي هو AAA. هي التيبل. Okay. What is okay? Suppose the tRNA molecule had the anticodon AAA. What amino acid would it carry? يلا لجين.
It's called lysine.
AAA.
Yes, lysine, I think.
Lysine?
Yes.
Lysine.
Yes.
لا ال AAA اللي هو مين؟ لا شفتي هون الغلط لجين. This is the mistake. هلا احنا عندنا على tRNA هو AAA. اوكي؟ انا بدي انه what amino acid would it carry؟ الانتيكودون على tRNA AAA. ايش حيكون على mRNA يا لجين؟
It would be UUU.
فانت بتشوفي ايش هو الكومبلمنتري على mRNA UUU يعني الامينو اسيد is phenylalanine.
Yes, I got your question.
اوكي مس. يعني لما نسالكم انا suppose tRNA molecule اعطينا كمان واحده يلا another one tRNA molecule had the anticodon اللي هو let's say UGC. What amino acid would it carry? UGC. يلا what amino acid it would carry? عبد العزيز. التي ار ان اي انتي كودون عنده الانتي كودون اللي هو يو جي سي. اوكي
Serene.
لحظه شوي عبد العزيز.
Yes, miss. I'm with you.
يلا عبد العزيز انا عم بقول لك التي ار ان اي الانتي كودون تبعه ايوه يو جي سي. خليني اكتب لكم اياه هون.
Yes, teacher. I think it's amino acid serine.
يو جي سي. على طول قبل ما اطلع على الجدول before I look for the table بشوف ايش الكومبلمنتري على الام ار ان اي يا عبد العزيز لهذا. ما بطلع على هذا هون. هذا على انتي كودون في التي ار ان اي. هدول كودون that code for amino acids بالام ار ان اي. فانا عندي الانتي كودون تي ار ان اي تاعه يو جي سي. بالضبط ايش الكومبلمنتري تبعه عبد العزيز؟ ايه ايش الكومبلمنتري؟ A C G صح؟
صح miss.
طيب وين ال A C G؟ هيو. ايش الامينو اسيد؟ ثريونين. تمام؟ لما اقول لك انا اعطيك الانتي كودون على التي ار ان اي بتكتب الانتي كودون بتفكر ايش الكومبلمنتري. اليو بيمسك مع الاي، الجي بيمسك مع السي، والسي بيمسك مع الجي. فانا I have to look at for this anticodon for this codon here. هذا الكودون will code for this amino acid.
Yes.
يلا